Okay, we're live.
Good morning. Happy Thursday. Josh Advocate here.
Hello, hello.
This is wild. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yeah, it's good
I'm
to be
so
here.
excited for you to share your story and so excited that you are on a new journey.
Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. Excited to get this thing rolling.
Let's tell the community who you are if they don't know. I mean, a lot of people know, and in our circle, you just assume everyone knows, but there may be a lot of people who don't.
That is true. Josh Advocate. I was born in Kingman, raised out here. Went to River Valley High School, graduated in 2012,
Let's go.
and then kind of started my journey from there. But local product, born and raised, family roots, grandparents were out here, so been out here for a while.
So exciting.
Absolutely.
It's if you don't know, I mean, he went pretty far out there in the baseball world, really starting from this small town. Back then, we didn't have all the travel ball. There
Yeah.
wasn't so much advancement. Quick, it really had to be like a drive for you personally to really get from, normal little league stuff to.
Yeah. No, I remember playing for a team out of Kingman. I think it was the Kingman Crush. But other than that, it was you play baseball, you play football, you play basketball. That was the rotation. And then eventually in high school, I made the decision that I'm probably not going to go very far in basketball, being 5'4" with inability to jump. So focused on football and then baseball. So
Let's we were just talking about at what point you kind of knew that you really well. You talked about the fact that you wanted to always be a baseball player, but really when you got into high school, it became that's what I'm going to be. That's what I'm going to do.
yeah, what's crazy is a lot of people don't know, but I wanted to play football more than baseball. I think I enjoyed the Friday Night Lights, the cohesive brotherhood of football, and it doesn't hurt when your team plays well. We had a pretty good group of guys, and
Yeah. Did you guys take state that year?
no, we ended up losing at home. We hosted a playoff game and ended up losing that.
Ruckles.
But yeah, right. But it was my senior year that I had to make that decision whether baseball or football, and it made more sense to go that route. And honestly, it was a tough decision because I had actually had the opportunity to go play football at a Division III in Iowa, and after my senior year, I got some options to come to a couple schools in Arizona and stay local, semi-local, and not be in negative 30-degree weather. So
Yeah. Well, and that really transitioned from this moment of thinking I'm going to play snow for football, and then this baseball opportunity hit you.
yeah, no, absolutely. And if it's crazy to think that if we didn't make it that far in playoffs that, in 2012, who knows? I was committed to go play at Buena
I
Vista.
just got goosebumps.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, and there's so much stuff that goes into it that you don't think about that's really out of your control.
Yeah.
There's obviously hard work, dedication, all that stuff puts you in a position, but there's some lucky stuff that you can't control. If we don't make the playoffs that year, then I don't pitch in that game to, have the opportunity to be in front of scouts and
Right.
to
So
start
he
to
was
build that.
literally committed for football and then pitched a hell of a game. That moment,
Yeah,
you had your phone ringing.
Yeah.
Like, we need you for baseball.
yeah, it's crazy.
More than one school.
It happened, overnight. And it's kind of funny, we talked a little bit about getting out of a small town, and it's
Yeah.
not an easy thing. At the end of my sophomore year, beginning of junior year, end of junior year, and beginning of senior year, I sent off emails and letters to every junior college in Arizona, and then a ton of them in Colorado, Utah, Nevada, the western part of Texas, and I got one response back. And it was basically saying, thank you for reaching out at this moment. We're not really interested.
Throw punch, right? Like,
Yeah,
what
and
am I going to do?
Yeah, and it's like, I've dedicated, this time and effort and, put together these, videos and sent this out. Like, there's a lot of time.
It is work.
Yeah, so what's going into it.
Yeah.
And so it's a ton of work, and just to have somebody basically say thanks but no thanks, it kind of put a little chip on my shoulder. And
Yeah.
so when I threw that game against Mingus in 2012, and all of a sudden all these schools are, hey, where you go next year? We'd love to have you out. Can you come visit? Can you, fill out an application?
You're like, too late.
Yeah, right. And so, yeah, part of me was like, hey, but obviously that was the goal that I'd been working to. And in that moment, my eyes and my goals are set on winning a state title. And so I felt like I owed it to myself to take that time to make the decision the right way, and also give my teammates that had worked, for multiple years to get there, like let's focus on this and then we'll attack that. But to say it wasn't in the back of my head, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't, Yeah. And so
you didn't make this easy for me, that's for sure.
Right. Yeah. And so I think that was really, to answer your question, when did you know that's, when that stuff kind of came to fruition, it was like, okay, there is an opportunity to go play it wherever it is, get my foot in the door, and whatever happens, happens. So.
Well, if you kind of know your journey and your history and watch you on TV, you're a former Long Beach Dirtbag and Texas Ranger pitcher. You kind of like assume this fancy little situation happened where, like Josh went out there. It was, here it is. Here's the golden plate. But really, there was a lot of things that happened in between getting there.
Oh, yeah. No, my path was very bumpy here to there. It was not a straight line. So I ended up signing to go play at Arizona Christian. The reason is there was a mutual coach there, and it was a good fit. He was a really smart baseball guy. He knew his stuff. He was well connected, and so I went there. He ended up leaving in the fall, new coaching staff, just a very political environment, and it just wasn't a good fit, And so I ended up going from there, falling back from a 4-year school to Cochise Community College, Division I JUCO, and we took off. And I threw in the fall in front of Long Beach, along with a couple other schools. Baylor was there, University of Utah, and Gonzaga. Those were the main schools. And I decided to go play at Long Beach State. And so, move on from Cochise. We go to the World Series. We miss winning a national title by a couple games. Yeah. And so, that was an experience.
Yeah.
And then finally land at Long Beach State. So to get there, it was 2 years of, okay, if I fall back from Arizona Christian to Cochise, there's a risk that if I don't perform, that's it.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to go from there. That's my second year. I'm done. And so that was kind of a,
scary
laying at night. Yeah.
Yes.
Thinking like, here's the pros, here's the cons. And ultimately it was like, if I perform the way that I know I can, then we'll go. And so.
Got to take a leap of faith.
Yeah. And it's funny that game, the setup where I threw in front of Long Beach, it's
goosebumps again.
Right. and you get 5 hitters, and it doesn't matter. You can strike all 5 out. All 5 could hit home runs. It doesn't matter. You have 5 hitters. And I remember throwing in the bullpen, and it was like, whew, this is not good,
Time.
Oh, yeah. And
what am I going to do?
And anybody in the stands, we're playing at Peoria Sports Complex, so it's a big spring training stadium, 10,000 plus seats in there, and there's really not many people there. It's more so scouts and scouts and coaches. And
it's like
so
your moment.
You can
like
hear
your moment. Like this is the moment.
That's more nerve-wracking than fans.
Oh, and you can hear the ball as I'm throwing, missing fastballs, just whack, hitting the padded background,
Like,
and
what am I doing?
I remember leaving the bullpen thinking, well, either you figure it out or you don't. And it was one of the best times, like best I'd ever thrown. It was to that point the hardest I'd ever thrown. And
nice.
You want to talk about phone blowing up? That's when it's like, Gonzaga, Long Beach, Baylor, University of Utah, McNeese State, Old Dominion, UTEP. It was insane. I remember we were sitting at actually CJ's house in Buckeye because we had played, stayed the night, and then we were going to go back. And it's just nonstop. And then it's like the Arizona Diamondbacks, the Kansas City Royals, the Padres.
Like now I really have some choices to make.
Yeah, and it's like it's so early in this process for like all the recruiting stuff, but at the same time, the window closed for commitment. I think I had 3 weeks to commit, and so I narrowed it down to the main 4: Long Beach State, University of Utah, Baylor, and Gonzaga. And I kind of sat down and had conversation with the coaches and said, hey, I know you probably don't want to give a number over the phone. You don't want to commit,
right.
Without being, in person. But do you have an idea as far as like packages, scholarships? And Baylor was really on the list. That's a big-time school. Like,
yeah,
it was good. But the scholarship that they offered, which was very, very reasonable, didn't cover as much as I needed with them being a private institution, because I think they're mid-50s a year, and so I was going to be left with a hefty chunk to where Long Beach.
You had to think of really your future outside of baseball as well.
Exactly. And so I sat down with our coach in college at Cochise, and he said, yeah, take your trip. So I flew to Long Beach weekend 1. I flew to Gonzaga weekend 2 and University of Utah 3. All the packages were very similar. And so I had to sit down and think, okay, where do I want my baseball career to go to the next level? And Long Beach State, I mean, it's hard to beat that. You're playing Fullerton, USC,
You're
UCLA.
at the beach.
Yeah, exactly. And
Prime
so,
time, yeah.
yeah, I landed at Long Beach, but
Awesome.
it was a rocky, bumpy journey to get there. It was not just, here we go, smooth sailing, we're there. So
Yeah.
Well, we also talked about the fact that this really started in high school going forward, where you knew you wanted to go to the next level, which meant not going to parties, missing weddings, missing,
Yeah.
really life events that took your time away and making that choice to really early on.
yeah, no, it was hard, but once I had made that choice, it was, okay, this is what I want to do. And I would say that, like, a lot of those sacrifices happened more so once I had made it to Long Beach and made it to, like, the first year in pro ball, because in high school, I didn't really have that piece yet, but once I had made it to Long Beach and kind of got that taste, I like to say, you're out here, you're kind of a bigger fish in a small pond.
Right.
There's not a huge population. You're not playing the Centennials. You're not playing the Bishop Gormans. Like, so you don't realize what's out there, and then you get to college and you're like, well, this guy's from Canada. This guy's from the Dominican Republic, and you realize that not only are you playing on a national level, but really the whole world. And that was an eye opener too.
Overwhelming.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. And then so my first year pro ball, like, missing events and stuff, it's, I need to stay here and work out. I remember going to the McAndrews wedding in Mexico, and I show up and I have all my weighted balls, I have a glove, I have baseballs, and TSA pull.
And they're like, what are you doing?
My TSA, because I send my bag through. And they kind of look at it and they call another guy. Well, they're basically a rubber ball filled with, like, sand and different, lead material. Yeah, and so he calls me over and he's like, hey, what's going on? I'm like, oh, it's a weighted ball to throw. And I mean, they pulled over TSA agents because they're like, what is this? But
what is this kid trying to bring?
And I remember, the morning of being down there, I'd go to, they had a tennis court, and I would go down there and I would throw. I would take a ball.
On vacation.
Yeah, throw a ball against the wall or whatever it took,
Yeah.
And so those kind of sacrifices and those, missing out on stuff. It was hard, and missed a couple weddings, which, that's regretful, but that's what it took. So.
Yeah. Along with your lovely wife now, but you guys have been together a long time, kind of rode this road of being apart and really, buying houses and, really kind of taking each other to the next level. And I'm sure her love and support really helped that. Let alone your mom and dad. I mean, that's your whole family,
Mm-hmm. No, Jess was a rock star. There's not many people. If you talk to anybody that went down that minor league path, they'll tell you that you have to find a special individual. That's because they're putting themselves second over day after day, over and over. I mean, it's such a stressful, position to be in, but I mean, Jess held down the fort. I would be gone for months at a time. Sometimes, like in 2019, I had to go to camp early. I got to camp in January. I played, through rehab, spring training, season, and then I got invited to go to the fall league. And so
still gone, huh? Like when you're supposed to be home, you're gone.
And so we went fairly deep into playoffs in 2019. We finished our season. I drive from North Carolina home. I unload, hang out at home for one day, pack up again, and go back to Phoenix for another 6-week season. Woo. And so, I mean, I was gone from the beginning of January until the end of October. I mean, if you think about that's a long time. That's a long time.
To be apart, let alone to, just the struggle of not having your partner all the time.
It's a mental battle. I mean, you have some days that are rough, and you have other days where, like she lifts you up and picks you up. But yeah, I cannot say enough about what she really did and still continues to do to this day, being on this new journey. She was a huge supporter and, push, like, hey, this is what you want to do. Like, you have the tools, you have the ability, like, go do it.
What are you waiting for?
Exactly.
What are you waiting for?
Exactly. So,
Jeff, let's show a few of the pictures.
I will. Just a second. I just want to mention that we have some chat going on here, and you got fans, friends, I don't know, one of the two. Let's see. There's Bryson Foe says, let's go, Josh.
Oh, there you
So
go.
you know Bryson.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Derek Advocate.
Brother.
Oh, God. What did he say?
He just gave some Shaka signs, like.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, there you
we're
go.
scared.
Yeah.
You might,
Yeah, I would never know with him.
And then you have Kim Hernandez says you're killing it.
Oh, mother-in-law.
Yep.
we go.
And then Alessa Hinkle's there.
Sister-in-law. Let's
Mm-hmm.
go. Way to support.
She's telling Jess to stop it.
Yeah. Right.
Anyways, Alessa says she loves you guys so much. All right.
Yeah.
So there's your caught up with the chat. Now we'll go to some photos here.
Yeah, let's
All
check
right.
it out.
Here we go.
Oh, there we
It's
go.
not the cleanest photo, but you can tell us about it.
Yeah, that was 2019 Long Beach. We had just finished a game, and we were waiting on another team to play.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things, we win and they lose, we win the title before the season ends. So we actually won the Big West title for the first time. I think it was it was a while. I think since 2005 we
Very
won,
cool.
Big West title outright. So if you think of the Big West, you have Cal State Fullerton, you have UC
Big
Irvine,
games, yeah.
you have UC Santa Barbara, you have Cal Poly. So I mean, it's a good baseball conference. So
Oh, yeah. Then we have this one here.
Ah.
Tell us about that.
cool.
yeah, those were some of the first autographs that we'd signed, which for me was a very, very foreign thing. So you come off the field and, there's a handful of kids that are waiting to sign. And so it was a cool experience. So
It is cool.
that was the Fall League in 2019. I think the caption on that photo was, "It takes a village." And it just goes to show how many people behind the scenes, positive calls and text and, you battle through injuries. That was the year after I'd had that injury in 2018 where I re-aggravated my UCL. And so to have everything come full circle and big picture and to make it to the Fall League, which I don't know if people are familiar with the Fall League, but I mean, each organization gets to select a handful of players from A-ball up to AAA, that even some big league guys that they just basically go to throw in a very, very competitive end-of-the-season league. Some guys like Pete Alonso has played in it. Vladdy Jr. played in it. I think Trout played in it.
Gosh.
It's some high-level stuff. And so
Cool.
to make it all to there and then have my family and friends and,
Show
extended
up.
family come to support, I mean, it's a huge deal. It's something that it helps make that journey and those days that you miss and the grind and the missing family. It just it
They
makes
got
it
to
all
come
worth
see
it.
You.
Yeah.
I mean, you had fans, not just your family fans, but local friends go and visit you
Oh, yeah.
as well out in Phoenix. Let's see a few more. Let's show one of the videos.
Oh, that was
We'll get to the video.
Spokane. So that was my first year. After I'd signed, I went to Arizona for about 10 days and then shipped up to Spokane, Washington. So that was a lot of fun up there.
All right. And then we got this one.
This weekend trying to get a base.
We got to know about this.
Yeah.
This is kind of a funny situation.
So
Perfect time.
the
Down in the bullpen, some fun being had by the
so
Dirt
pick-
bags.
Yeah, so pitchers, especially bullpen guys, they're their own breed. They're a little different. And so that was our rally. If it was 3 balls, 2 strikes, 1 out, that was kind of our mojo. Whether we were hitting or pitching,
Like, we're coming.
we
for
bust
you.
out the sniper. Yeah, and so we would travel with that. I mean, that was at North Carolina.
You were
and-
saying that they would stop you at
Yeah.
the airports and be like, "What in the world is this?"
Yeah, so we would have our checked bags, and that would go no matter if we were going to Oklahoma, North Carolina, UC, wherever we went, the sniper was there. And so the first time we flew, that was the second trip of the year, but the first time we went to Oklahoma, and I get my bag and I check it, and I'm like, something's different. Like the straps are different, the zipper's in a different spot, and I open it up, and there's a letter from TSA, and it was just basically saying like, hey,
searched
we
your
saw this,
bag.
we searched your bag, I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, that's different. And every time we flew, I would always have one of those notifications. But yeah, it was just something to keep us engaged, to have fun. And I mean, there's some other pictures floating around. I think one was at Arizona State, and there's no bullpen in Arizona State. Like North Carolina, we were in the far right corner by the foul pole, kind of tucked away. And the cameras must have seen us on day 2, but there's one of us at Arizona State, and their bullpen's right on the left field line. And, we're laid down on the bullpen, use the mound as a rest. And so just stuff like that to keep us
That's
engaged.
funny.
But that's your college ball stuff right
Yeah.
there for
So
sure.
I assume as you hit Texas Rangers, it got a little more serious and maybe not so much fun.
You would be surprised. Again, pitchers they're a little different. But I mean, once I got to that point, because in college, I guess in a sense you're getting paid. They're paying for your education, so in a sense you're being compensated in some form.
Yeah.
But when you get to that level, you're cashing a check to support your family. And that's a different weight.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there's a lot of stuff that there's politics to go into it. You know, if a guy at the top of the organization has somebody drafted, you know, that guy, he's invested, they're tied together. And so if that guy succeeds, then, you know, the high up guy that drafted him succeeds. If he doesn't succeed, you know, it's a reflection of him. So
Yes.
there's a lot of stuff that goes
Just
into
a
it that,
different level
yeah,
all
and
around.
if you think about how much money these organizations generate, I mean, you're talking huge sums of money. And so it becomes more of a business, which it is what it is. You know, it's not right, it's not wrong, but it changes in that aspect. But still in the day-to-day life, if you think about it, you're still playing the same game that you played when you were 10 years old. You know, it's a little different level, obviously, but it's still the same game. And it's really cool to look back and put myself back in that situation of some of the stuff we were doing. And I've got some pictures of us playing games in the bullpen, you know, stuff like that. But it's still, you're still playing a kid's game in a sense, you know. And
if you can remind yourself and maybe take a little of the pressure
Oh, yeah.
off. So let's talk about, you had a few injuries in between this time. So not only was college and where you were going challenging at times, but really dealing with your own body's needs and when to kind of shut it down and give yourself a moment.
yeah, it's something I had to learn the hard way because stubborn, you know, maybe a little bit ignorant on some of that stuff. But
Yeah.
the first big injury I had was at Long Beach, and I remember I was thrown in inter squad, and I threw a changeup, a 1-1 changeup, and it just felt like the inside of my elbow. The best way I could describe it, it unzipped. It just kind of, boom, right there. And I remember throwing the pitch, and I catch the ball, and I kind of look down, and I'm million miles an hour on the mind, and I'm
Like, what just happened?
yeah, and I'm assessing, and I'm like, what is going on? Like, that's not normal. Wait, is it normal? Like, what's going on? And I remember looking at my elbow, and I drop the baseball, and I walk off. And our pitching coach kind of meets me at the line, and he's like, dude, what's going on? I'm like, Steely, something's going wrong with my elbow. Like, I don't know what happened. Something's wrong. And so I go see the trainer. Long story short, we do an MRI, and it ends up being a tear on my UCL. And I remember my mom made the trip out there to go with me to the doctor. So it was me, her, and the trainer. And my mom, if you've ever met her, super, super positive, sees the positive and everything.
fine.
Yeah, exactly. And I remember they go through everything, and I know deep down, like, I know what happened in there is something's bad, you know.
Yeah.
And he walks in, the doctor, and the tendon that they use for Tommy John, you can kind of see I have that to where
Yeah.
this side I don't.
Oh, yeah.
It's your palmaris longus. And so they take that and they basically figure eight it inside that joint space. And the doctor comes back in, he's like, oh, one more thing. He's like, do this for me. I hold my arms out, kind of feels. All right, cool. And he walks out, and I look at my mom, and I was like, hey, Mom,
Just surgery.
just so you know, Mom, they're doing Tommy John. She's like, you don't know that? Like, you don't know that? We'll wait to see. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you, prepare yourself. Like, they're going to come in and tell me we're doing Tommy John. Sure enough, they come
and this
in.
is in Long Beach,
This-
so this is really the beginning of your college journey.
This is my first year at Long Beach, like my third or fourth time on the mound in game stuff. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, you embrace it. It is what it is. There were a few nights of tears. There were a few nights of, you know,
defeating, I'm sure.
well,
at
yeah,
some
and
point.
you know, you throw your pity party. You're like, why me? Like, you know, I've done all this, I've done that, and
Yeah.
when you take a step back, you know, it's like, I can't change it. I can't. It is what it is. Either I take road A, I overcome it. I take the high road. I learn from it. You know, I become better for it, or I self-loathe. I throw pity parties.
take me over.
Yeah, exactly. And so.
No time for that,
Yeah,
Josh.
you're right. And I mean, I would be lying if I said there weren't days where it was like, this is unfair, and you know, you have that pity
Pissed.
part. Yeah, you know, but at the end of the day, you know, I took that road, you know, help from training staff, from players that have gone through it before, from, you know, Jess was a huge, you know, crutch to lean on when I needed her.
Yeah.
And so I overcome that, you know. And I remember the first outing back, it was so nerve-wracking. I'd built up, and, you know, it's 11 to 12, 13-month process. And I finally I've checked all the boxes. I've got the range of motion. I've strengthened. I've played catch. I've thrown to this point. I've thrown bullpens. And now it's, hey, this is your first bullpen, no restriction. You can
That's
throw as
like
hard as
go or
you
not.
can. And I remember throwing in the bullpen, and I'm still protecting. I'm like, you know, I'll never forget that feeling, you know. And
Like,
it's
just not wanting to hurt it again.
yeah, and I haven't thrown at that intensity since that day. And I remember throwing that first pitch, and the pitching coach steps in between me and the catcher, just me and him, you know, quietly talking, and he's like, throw the effing ball.
You're like, you
And I'm like,
quit messing around.
and I'm like, you know, I am. And he's like, I know you're not. He's like, did you put in the work? Yes. Did you bust your butt every day? Yes. He's like, then throw it. Trust it. And he kind of fired me up, and I'm like, you want me to see you want to see me throw this ball? And the first one I let rip. He kind of looks at me and he's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm good." And I had to cross that off the list, and then from there it was good. But yeah, I mean,
we
that
talked about the moment and the importance of being able to get out of your head in moments like that, where you're overwhelmed, where you have to go to a dark place, where you have to find really the power again to take you to the next level.
Yeah, I have a few, like we had talked, I have a few specific moments that kind of shaped me to go to those places. And, I remember, it seems silly, it's funny, but if you know me, from first, second grade, what I've always wanted to do was play baseball. That's all I've ever wanted to do. And I remember being in those classroom settings and, first day of school, what's your name? Where are you from? What do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a baseball player.
In Kingman, in Needles, they're like,
yeah, exactly.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, but what do you really want to do? And it's like, no, I want to play baseball. Like, I don't have a secondary plan, Yeah. And I remember those times, that it's like, puts a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, and it's silly as it is. I can remember being in those moments to where it's like, remember when those people doubted you and, you remember those times? The biggest one for me probably that sticks out is, I'll make it shorter, but Arizona State, I come in a game, and there was a little bit of a chip being from Arizona and having U of A, Arizona State, Grand Canyon just kind of look past you, River
like
Valley.
You missed out on me.
Yeah, River Valley, like, you're kind of small for us, kid. And so I finally get to take the mound against, Arizona State. And I came in the 8th inning, first guy faced strikeout. Second guy strikeout, feeling good. Come back out for the 9th. We have a 2-run lead. And I'm like, let's go. First guy of that inning, strikeout. Next guy, first pitch, weak ground ball to shortstop. Next guy, first pitch, 2-run jack. Tie ball game, bottom of the 9th. And, that hurt. And so I get out of the inning. We end up losing in extras. And I remember getting back to the room. And on the field, I always try to keep it even keeled. I don't want to ever show emotion. I don't want to be too high. I don't want to be too low. Like, I should never be able to see where you're at by just looking at you on the field. If I come to the game and you've given up 5 in the first inning, it should be the same as if you punched out the first 3 guys. And so I do my best to keep it together. And once I get behind closed doors, I explode. I mean, it was so overwhelming, so emotional, disappointing. I have family coming out. It's finally my time to stick to these guys. And I lay an egg, I crap the bed. And those were the times, like you said, to kind of go to that dark place. Nobody wants to relive that, but when I'm in the gym or, I know I need to go run, sprints or whatever it is, and it's just like, I don't want to do this. Like, my buddies are going to the river, they've got the wakeboard boat, they're going to Circle Beach, they're going to go do that. I had to find something that was like, hey, you remember that feeling? Like, you remember what that was like? And it made me think, like, I don't ever want to feel that again. So you know what? I'll be there in a couple hours, but I'm going to go take care of my stuff first. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go throw. I'm going to take care of my conditioning, and then I'll be there. And it was hard. It's something, like I said, I refer to it kind of going to that dark place, where you feel those feelings. You put yourself back in the situation, and it's stuff like that I think helped carry me to that next level.
Yeah, didn't give you time to rest. You were always fighting.
Yeah, it's super competitive. So,
okay, so Texas Rangers. I mean, that's a big deal. At what point was it? I've kind of had my journey, and then you decide maybe this isn't for me.
Yeah, it was. Like I said, 2019 was the best year I'd ever had. I gained some velocity. I picked up on some stuff. I worked really hard with our data and analytics department, our pitching staff, and we really honed in on me understanding, who I was as a pitcher. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? How can we, amplify your strengths and, minimize those weaknesses? And so everything came together about midseason, and that's when I got the nod to go to the fall league. Well, COVID happens, and it kind of shuts stuff down. I ended up back home, and it's funny. I would send pictures and videos to our coaching staff, and I would be on the mound throwing towards second base because the home plate side was just, dug out. It was a disaster. I remember taking screens. If I couldn't find a catcher, I would take a screen and I would put yellow rope for my strike zone, and I would throw 10 or 12 baseballs, go pick them up, throw 10, and that was my bullpen. I didn't have a full-time catcher. I didn't have the,
While
indoor
everyone
facility.
else is in Phoenix and wherever else.
Indoor
having-
facilities, yeah. And I mean, I had to do what I had to do.
So even at that point, you had to figure out how to look outside of the box and continue to work for the next level.
Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine the people in the gym being very happy because I would have my weighted balls and I would be in there and I would throw 100 times against the wall because I couldn't. Maybe it was one of those days where it was 40-mile-an-hour winds and nobody was going to go out and throw, and so I go through that. I kind of battle some injury stuff. 2021, I come back and I go to Frisco to AA and end up, re-aggravating my elbow. And I think that was because I had some stuff in my shoulder that I hadn't fully got past. And shoulders are nasty. I mean, shoulder injuries, you have so many ranges of motion that it's so hard to get everything back to where it was. To where an elbow, I mean, that's what you've got flexion extension.
Yeah.
Tommy John it's a procedure that they've got pretty well dialed in, and so the shoulder just hasn't fully come back. And so I remember getting there in 2022 for spring training, and obviously me and Jess have been married for 4 years at this point. We've always wanted to have kids, and it's kind of like, we'll see how this year goes. Let's see how this goes. We either need to make a run at it or it's time to make that tough decision. And I'm throwing in spring. Everything feels good. I throw a live BP. Velocity's where it's supposed to be. Everything feels really good. And I throw in that live BP, and the next bullpen I have, I'm like, man, it's just not right, And I think the velocity in that live BP was, mid-90s, 94 to 96. And I throw that bullpen, and it's like, it's hard to get over 90, 91. I'm like, what the heck? That's not normal. And what ends up happening, I have impingement, which is just that joint space. It gets super inflamed, and the remedy is rest. And I know, being where I was at the age I was, I don't have the luxury of time. I have to perform, or the game's going to pass me by. And being 28, that's a reality. And so I pump some anti-inflammatories. I do what I can on the training, and I tell the pitching coach, I'm like, just give me a day. Let me get one day. And I go throw the next day, and it's the same thing. And so I sit down, I have a couple conversations with a few people I know, and ultimately it's like, you know what? I don't want to put Jess through me being in rehab again. I'm 3 hours from home. I could be there. And also, it's what I wanted to. And that's what it came down to, is this is what's best for me and my family.
Yeah.
And as hard as it was, I mean, it was emotional. And so I remember going in that next day, and I've made the decision. I've come to peace with it. I'm at terms with it. And I walk in, and I remember just going about it a little different. All the little things that you take for granted, the people, the layout of the clubhouse, the camaraderie, the people playing cards, the clubbies, everything that you just overlook and take it as, it's just what it is. I started taking those things in, and I remember going out to the field and throwing, and it's like, gets me a little emotional, but I remember like looking at those doors, and it's a long tunnel that you go past, and it opens up to the fields. And I remember looking at that like, all right, this is the last time I'm going to see this, and I go through the day, and I play catch, and one of the guys I throw with, he's like, hey, are you good? I'm like, Diddy, we're good. Don't worry about it. How far you want to go, you just go. And he's like, are you sure? And I'm like, just go. And I remember coming back into the clubhouse, and I sit down in my locker. I typed a message to the coordinator, the top dog for the minor league pitching. And I sent out this message, and all it says is, hey, we need to talk. And I kind of sit there, and I'm like, yeah, this is the move. I send it. And he pops around the corner like 30 seconds later, and he's like, hey, grabs me. We go into the office, and it's me, him, and then, one of the other guys, one of the pitching coaches. And we sit down, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to gather myself. I'm going to try to keep it together, but this is the move I need to make. And I tell him, and he's like, I kind of see it on your face. There's, I know this has been weighing on you. And he's like, I'm not surprised. He's like, I have 3 questions for you. He's like, how are you mentally? How are you spiritually? How are you physically? I'm like, DC, I'm good, man. I'm at peace with it. It's the decision. I've talked with my family. I've talked with my wife. I'm good. And he's like, he's like, just between me and you, he's like, you've done, an outstanding job. You've made it further than you were expected, and you have nothing but pride that you should have. You should hold your head high, and it's been an awesome journey. And if you ever need anything, let me know. And it's it was one of those things, and I'm just alligator tears coming down, but it was cool that his biggest thing was like, where are you at?
Are you?
Like, are you
earned
good?
their respect.
Yeah, and it was like, are you good? Are you at peace with this decision? Because if you're good in your heart and you're good in your soul, like,
I can't talk you out of it.
yeah, he's like, it's the move that you need to make. And so that was a hard one, but it stung. The first year I really think it really hurt because all those guys I'd played with since 2017, and going through the grind with, and you start seeing these guys, big leagues, and I don't want to sound like I'm envious or jealous, because I have nothing but love for those guys. Yeah. But there's a part of me that's in there. It's like, damn, I was right there with those guys. Like, what could have been? You know what I mean? But as I sit back, and look back at it, it was absolutely the right decision. We have a beautiful daughter now, and happy, healthy family. So it was hard, but I mean,
she's so cute.
Oh yeah. But
she's your next level now.
Oh, I know. Yeah. Shoot, I bit off more than I could chew with that one. But no, it was absolutely, undoubtedly the decision that I needed to make, and it took a little bit to get there. But no, we're both happy with it for sure.
I love it. Let's see what other pictures. Did we miss any pictures? No, we got more. Let's see. Some more videos. Oh, that's everyone came to see you when you were out there.
Oh yeah.
That's some of the kids that you actually continue to coach now.
Yeah, little Mick in the backdrop right there. Yeah, no, the fall league, that was a good time for sure. That was my first taste of kind of that upper level minor league stuff where it becomes more on you to get that work done. There's no micromanaging. It's, if you need to do this, then do it. If you don't, then all that matters when you get on the mound, you have to perform. So
what's next, Jeff? Oh, there's Mama, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Yes, look it.
So that was 2018 down in North Carolina. So it's cool. I still talk to both there and in 2019 the families and the people that were there to support. Still talk to them on a regular basis. So it was cool.
What's next? Oh,
another fall league. That was my buddy's Cole. He actually just decided to hang it up this past year. He was when I talk about somebody that had to grind, he was a 40th round draft pick, which at the time that was literally the last round. There was probably 15 picks before the draft was over, and he was our last draft pick.
Talk about staying out of your head, right? Like still being able to go out there and perform.
Yeah, and
even at that point.
And he made it all the way to AAA. I really thought he had a chance of making it last year, but him and his wife they just actually had their baby a few months before us. So
very cool.
This is cool.
Yeah, that was almost like an inside joke, but it was a curse. It seemed like everybody that got the BC Powder reliever of the month the next month just
a problem.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you have a terrible game where you give up 7 or it was like
please don't let me get that again.
Yeah, I was like, I appreciate it, but let's pick the next guy.
So let's talk about your new journey, which is you got a baseball camp going on. Mm-hmm. What do you want to tell everyone out there about that and what that looks like and how they get a hold of you? Yeah,
so if you find that number, you can find me on Instagram, on Facebook. Reach out, send me a message, give me a call, shoot me a text, whatever you need to do. It's been a passion of mine. In 2017, I started working with the first kids that I had done. I know Dre was one of them. A couple kids from Havasu. Hunter Kaler, and it's cool to see all these kids that I worked with 7 years ago, I guess now, to see everything. It's crazy to see that all come to fruition and see these kids performing and with Dre being a senior and having the opportunity to go on and continue. I would say that, on top of learning the game and the knowledge, and if you do a lesson with me, you'll understand. Like, I want to have fun. I want these kids to enjoy and love this game the way that I do. I want there to be that passion and that, want to be there. And my goal, I want every one of these kids to have the opportunity to travel that road that I did. Whether that, I think honestly that, getting with the Texas Rangers and even going to Long Beach, like those were cherries on top. I always wanted to just have a foot in the door wherever that was. It didn't matter if it was Arizona Christian, Cochise College, a Division III in Storm Lake, Iowa. It doesn't matter. Have your foot in the door because, you never know what's going to happen. Yeah. And at the end of the day, I forget often, Jess has to remind me, but, you walk away with an education. You get a degree, whether that's you paying for it, and along the ride you get to play baseball and do something you love, or maybe you earn a scholarship and there's a portion of that that's covered. But at the end
You're
of the
not just a cute ball guy.
Yeah,
You actually got some degrees too.
right, supposedly, right. But yeah, so I mean, I ended up with a bachelor's degree in exercise science, and I have a minor in psychology. I have an associate's in exercise science, and so
Would you tell, I mean, I know that you talk to the kids about the importance of looking outside of baseball, not becoming just baseball, but really where, your education's going to take you.
yeah, no. If you think about, if you think about the numbers, the amount of people, let's just say college, we'll say baseball, but I think this applies to everything. Your number of college baseball players versus the number of professional baseball players, right? That funnel gets narrower and narrower. And in reality, is unfortunate as it is, but it's the truth, is there's only a slim margin, a slim sliver of those college guys that'll make it and make that professional lifestyle something that supports a family, And so understanding that is huge. We had a guy come in once and talk to us with the Rangers because, like we said, we get to that point now, your job is not just to play baseball. Now you're trying to provide for your family. And you see that a lot with the guys that come from the Dominican Republic, Venezuela, Colombia. Their life over there is so based on how these guys perform in the States, because what we make here, for us, it's like, that's not a lot of money, in which it might be a surprise to a lot of people. The minor league pay, and it's gotten better, I will say that, but it's not the luxury, life of luxury that people think.
Yeah.
And so they're sending that money back trying to, support their family. And you get so ingrained with it that he came in one day, the speaker came in and said, hey, stand up, what's your name and what, who are you? He stands up, I'm so-and-so, I'm a baseball player. I play shortstop. And he's like, okay. He's like, what about you? Stand up. I'm so-and-so, I'm a right-handed pitcher from Arkansas. And he's like, no. He's like, that's not who you are. He's like, who are you? And he's like, well, what do you mean?
God, I don't know.
Yeah. He's like, what do you mean? He's like, are you a brother? Yeah, I have a brother. Are you a son? Are you a dad? And he's like, that is who you are. Understand there has to be this separation. He's like, if you're, let's just say a UPS driver, and I ask you, who are you? You're not, I'm not Bob, the UPS driver. I'm a father. I'm a son. All these things. And he's like, you have to understand that there's a bigger picture. Baseball is what you do. It's not who you are. And to understand that, because we get so into this rut of it's so consuming, and to a degree that's good, like to be committed and dedicated. But you have to understand that it's what you do. It's not who you are. If that makes sense, because it gets so stressful and the weight on your shoulders and all that stuff. So, but yeah, kind of back to where we were at, I want every kid to have that opportunity and to be able to make those connections. I still talk to guys that I played with in college to this day. It's really cool. Colin Smith just signed to go play at Cochise.
Yeah.
The third baseman when I played is now the assistant coach there. And so it's really cool to have this baseball
circle.
community, come together. And it's amazing how small the baseball community really is. I almost guarantee I know by one or two people, most of the people that are out there, like, oh, you played with him who I played with in college. And
Well,
so
what did Dre call you and be like, hey, this, this
yeah.
the guy? And you're like, oh, yeah, hold on, I'll get a call with you.
That was
He was like, you are never going to believe what's happening right now.
that was really cool. And so he sends me a side-by-side of Cole Reagans, which if you don't know who Cole Reagans is, go look him up. He's an amazing ball player, and he's an outstanding human. And he sends me a side-by-side where he was with the Rangers throwing, low 90s, and then with the Royals last year throwing 100 mile an hour. And he's like, hey,
how do I get there? Huh?
He's like, what's different? I don't see it. And I said, give me a minute, let me call him. And Dre he's like, what? And it was really cool. I got on the phone with Reagans, and I'm like, dude, there's a kid out here. He's one of the hardest working kids I know. He's dedicated, and he just wants knowledge. I'm like, would you be okay if I patch him in on this call? And he's like, dude, for sure. Like, do it. And so I called Dre, and I'm like, hey, I don't know what you're doing, but get ready, dude. Like, are you good? And he's like, I just woke up, I'm like, all right, I'm going to call him, and I'll three-way you into this call. And so that was really, really cool that, I was able to have a connection that I'm sure that's something for Dre that it's like.
He was mind blown.
Yeah.
Like, you're never going to believe what just happened.
Right. So that was really cool. And I'm just happy to, when I see stuff like that and it comes to, fruition, it's awesome.
Well, I want to commend you. You've been such a huge journey in his space, but so many kids in town, and it's exciting for them to have you, who you hold a great reputation on and off the field. What you've made time to work with all of them all these years. They look up to you, and to have a figure like you, and such a man, a son, a father, now a husband. It's pretty cool for them to have somebody like you, and for you to really give them time, even in your busy time of life. You
Yeah.
still came home and worked with the kids.
Yeah. No, it's
And
something.
they're going off to college now. Like,
That's crazy.
This is cool.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations,
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was cool to see Thomas the other day get some reps behind. I remember him catching for me a few of those days. So, yeah, no, it's cool, and I appreciate those kind words. It's exciting. It's nerve-wracking. It was a big step, but I'm happy. I'm happy with where I'm at. So.
The cool part is watching you start your business and really taking yourself as a coach and as a leader that way, really to a whole nother level. It's not just the kids that you deal with, but it's the dads that are like, hey, like, what's going on here? What's in this motion? So it's really this big picture for you. And I imagine that comes with stress. You don't want to fail the kid, the parent. Let's talk a little bit about kind of where that looks for you and how you handle that stress, really. And that's been on you for a while with these kids, because they're all superstars, they think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely stressful, because it's like I said, I want every one of these kids to have that opportunity. And so for them to, go through the trials and in the ups and downs and the rocky outings and stuff, like, I feel like I'm with them in that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, when they have these rough times, it's like, all right, let's dive into some video. Let's pull some stuff from 3 months ago when things were feeling good. Okay, what's different? What's not there? The mental side, that's something that I think is overlooked. I'm like, hey, I try to grade them on stuff like that. I'll ask them, hey, how was your execution? Where were you at mentally? All right, I feel like I executed a 5 out of 10. My mental side was a 7 out of 10, or whatever it is, and it's like, you have to understand how big and how powerful this part of it is. You overlook that sometimes, and it's all physical. But it's so mental on that, of being able to just reset, be present, be where your feet are. That's a reference I like to use is, be where your feet are. I don't need to dwell on things that have already happened. I can't go back and make the umpire make the right call. He missed it. It is what it is. He's human too. I can't go back and dwell on the fact that this guy should have struck out, because, I make that mistake, and now all of a sudden the guy hits a double on the gap, and I'm still stuck on 3 pitches ago. It's stressful, because I think I've invested in these kids, and these kids have really invested in me, and I feel that, it's how do I put it? Like, I owe it to them to give them everything I have and pull on resources. And, I've sent video of certain guys to different coaches, like, hey, what am I missing? You know what I mean? Like, I've looked at this guy for the last 6 years. Do you see anything that I don't, And sometimes they'll see a little thing that I'm like, dude, what the heck? How did I,
You've just been in that motion
Yeah,
so long.
exactly. Or he'll say, I see this, this, and this. And it's like, okay, we're on the same page. All right, let's go from here. You know what I mean? But it's always nice to be able to pull on some of these guys that, haven't seen Dre throw for 7 years, So for them, it's a fresh set of eyes, and they might see something. But it's something that I want. Every time I get I get the report, I text Mitch, I text Brian, I text Jason. I'm like, hey, what's the report for today? Hey, he did this well, he struggled on this. And so, and that's reality of this game. This game is hard. This game is difficult. It's
mind, like you said. It's such a mind game.
Oh yeah. So no, I feel like I'm in the trenches with them, and I want nothing but success for these guys.
Well, I love it. I'm excited for you to hit this next level again. Really in your coaching space, and the tools that you give them as far as needing to protect their arms and to do their stretches, and to how all of that off the field really takes you further and in need of not messing around like there's no time.
Yeah, for you guys watching, do your arm care today. Yeah, no, I'm big on that, because it's something that's overlooked. And understand, guys, like, as you get to that next level, this is where you make your money. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If this fails, you're not going to make the club sitting in the tub. If you're not on the field, then you can't perform. You can't do your job. And so protecting that asset is, it's important. It's one of the most important things. So,
well, I'm glad they're getting to learn that, because you don't always have those coaches who even know that are so loyal to it,
Yeah.
but they're learning it from you. They're learning those things maybe that you didn't get at their ages.
Yeah.
And they're that far ahead of the game.
Yeah, for sure. No, it's very, very important. So
Well, thank you for being you.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your baseball camp, when and where and how they would get a hold of you.
gotcha. So yeah, if you want to get a hold of me at that number, like I said, Instagram, Facebook, any platform, go ahead, reach out. I do have limited spaces left, but it's ages for this one, and I'll try to do some more on down the road. But this one's going to be 8 to 13 for ages. It'll be at River Valley High School on March 23rd. So if you have a kid that's interested, please reach out. It's going to be a good experience. There's going to be a lot of knowledge. I'm bringing in a couple guys that have also played at the highest level, that have college experience, that have more experience than I do in different areas. So there'll be some good stuff out there for sure. So.
Well, thank you for showing up today. I appreciate you for sharing your story. If you have any questions or concerns, send them a message. There's a lot of different things us as parents don't know or don't understand, and you're the guy.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't hesitate. Reach out. So thank you, Christy.
Have a good day. Thank you for showing up.